it's been a busy week or so with a very screamy newborn, and in that time I've had a few malfunctions with YouTube video. So I'm really hoping this works tonight because I've already tried recording this once. And so you're not going to see the beginning of the intarsia because I'm already a couple of rows in. Now, where we were up to last at the end of the last video was I'd finished casting on. So what's happened since then is I used the magic loop method to join the circle together. I added a very expensive and highly technical stitch marker to mark the beginning of each round. As you can see, it's just a contrasting colour of wool tied around the needles. Okay, and each row, each round that you do, you slip that onto the needles instead of knitting it. You just slide it along and it kind of goes up the work as you're going. Now this pattern, what I've done is I've done 3 rows of purl, and they have kind of rolled up to form an edge. You can do anything you want, be it rib, moss stitch, whatever, for the edge of your beanie. Just follow your pattern, okay, or modify it as you choose. Now I did 4 rows of knit after that with this lovely variegated yarn, and then what I've done is I've started my intarsia. Now I've put that in the centre of the beanie. So I've knit halfway around the circle because I'd like the heart to be placed centrally and at the bottom of the beanie. And what I've done is I've done 2 rows of that so far. So now, because the heart starts with a V and we want it facing upward, and that's the edge of the beanie that sits on your forehead, first row is 1 stitch of the contrasting colour, next row is 3, spaced evenly. Okay, this row, 5 stitches, really complex. Okay, so the first thing to do when you're doing a row of intarsia is, in the round I should say, if it's going back and forward you normally leave the wool attached so you can go back the other way when you're going in the other direction. You cut off a length. This will be woven into the fabric later using a darning needle or wool needle. You grab your contrasting colour. Now what you want to do is you take that tail that you've just cut off, you wrap the next colour around it. Now this is done so that there aren't any holes in your work. If the yarn was already hanging there, you would just make sure when you're knitting that it goes under the old yarn before you knit your next stitch. And this is to ensure that it's woven together at back and there's no holes going to happen. What I'm wanting to do, because I don't want to leave a knot at the back because it's messy, is I grab both ends, the free end and the end attached to the ball, and I knit the stitches with both of those because it weaves it in for you rather than you having to go back and weave it in later. It makes it neater, means you don't have to use a knot, and it's stronger than just leaving it loose. Now in Fair Isle, when you're doing Fair Isle, you normally don't cut as you go along. You normally carry the colour changes across. That can take a lot of practice because if you get the tension wrong then it bunches up and looks crappy. So when I'm doing intarsia I really like to make sure that the tension's even, and that's the way to get it. That's one way to help get it even, is to make sure that you're not carrying the thread across the back, because if you do that it can squish up if you don't leave enough thread. Okay, so we've wrapped it around, wrapped the new colour around, and then we proceed to do 5 knit stitches. Okay, and you see that I'm using both bits of yarn, and that's so that it weaves in beautifully. 3, I'm going really slowly just so that you can see. As you can tell, my technique's awful, but that's because I learnt from watching 2 left-handers. and was self-taught. Okay, so we reached the end of our 5 stitches. We just have a little gentle pull on those threads to make sure that it sits evenly. And then what we're going to do is the same thing again. We cut a tail. That can be woven in later. Grab the initial colour you were working with, wrap it around that tail, and as I said before, if the wool was already attached, you would simply wrap that under the stitch you're going to be working with, and you knit along and go around the rest of the round again. That's one of the things about working in the round. It's much easier to create stocking stitch because it's just knitting to create that nice V-shaped look. However, when you're doing intarsia, it means that you actually have to not leave the wool attached. Okay, so what I've got here, if you can look closely, is the beginning of the heart. There. Okay, and just tug at it a little to make sure it's nice and even and nicely done. And on the back, your back should look like this. Lots of little threads hanging off and a little purple patch. Okay, and then at the end, when you finish everything, you go back and you get a wool needle and you weave those colours in to the matching colour, so your back of your work looks the same as the front of your work and it looks lovely. Okay, I'll see you guys a little later on for the next stage of the pattern, which will be changing colours for rows, and then we'll look at decreasing for the crown of the beanie. And then we're on the home stretch. Okay, bye.